Hey guys, most people have talked about Vanguard and Schwab ETFs, and that makes sense because they have some of the best ETFs on the market. You're talking about VOO, VGT, and VTI as part of the Vanguard ETFs, and Schwab has SCHD, SCHG, and SCHB. Those are some of the best ETFs on the market that you could be buying today. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about Fidelity ETFs. Now, Fidelity doesn't have as many great ETFs as Vanguard and Schwab, but they do have 3 great ETFs that can make you rich. So today we're going to be talking about these ETFs. Hey guys, my name is Steve and I run the Frugal Expat website where we try to help people to save more and invest better. And today we're going to be talking about Fidelity's ETFs, but particularly 3 of the best that can make you super rich. So let's get to it. Now, like I said, Vanguard's got some great ETFs and Schwab, and we are going to be kind of looking at some of the Fidelity ETFs. Now, our first ETF we're going to be talking about is FELC. Now, FELC is the Fidelity Enhanced Large Cap Core ETF. So what this ETF does is takes a look at the S&P 500, and what it's doing is it picks some of the best holdings, looking at profitability, looking at growth, and looking at valuation. It takes the large cap companies and creates a great portfolio to help you to make a core in your 3 fund, 2 fund, or even 4 fund portfolio. Now, it's got about 217 different holdings, with Nvidia, Microsoft, and Apple making some of the top 10 of these holdings. Now, the top 10 holdings do make about 37% of the entire portfolio, with technology doing about 34% of this portfolio, and you have financials doing about 14.53% of the portfolio. What is great about this one is it does have some more concentration in some of the top 500 companies, but it's got 217 companies, so you're putting more concentration in some of those best performing companies on the market. Now, this ETF hasn't been around that long. It's been around since about October of 2023, so we really don't have so much data about the performance overall, but when we look at the performance overall, it's doing about 3% better than S&P 500 over the last 2.5 years. So that's pretty good if you're thinking about trying to think about what is a better ETF. Should you choose FELC or VOO? Now, like I said, it hasn't been around that long, so it's hard to kind of figure out if it's a great long-term holding for you. Now, VOO has been around pretty long, so we know it's good ETF and tracks the S&P 500. But if you're looking for more concentration into kind of those core companies, FELC could be one of those. Now, one thing that you may want to look at is the expense ratio. The expense ratio of FELC is 0.18%, which means it costs about $18 for every $10,000 invested. Now, if you compare that to a VOO or even SCHB, which has expense ratio sitting at around 0.03%, FELC is more expensive. But like I said, the performance over the long term, it has been about 3% more in the last 2.5 years. So it could be worth it if you're looking at creating a great core using Fidelity ETFs. All right, let's get on to our next ETF. Our next Fidelity ETF is going to be FTEC. Now, FTEC is the Fidelity MSCI Information Technology ETF. Now, this ETF is compared to VGT, which is the Vanguard Information Technology ETF. They track the same exact index. Now, you may be wondering, why should I pick Fidelity over VGT? Well, VGT has an expense ratio of 0.09%, meaning it costs about $9 for every $10,000 invested, while FTEC costs about 0.08%, which means it costs $8 for every $10,000 invested. Now, it's slightly cheaper for an expense ratio, so you may be thinking, why not pick VGT? Now, FTEC also has a cheaper share price. The share price is around $182 compared to VGT, which has a share price of over $600. So if you're looking to kind of start investing into a good tech ETF that is very similar to VGT, then FTEC could be that ETF. Now, it's got about 293 different holdings, which is very comparable to VGT, with Nvidia, Microsoft, and Apple making some of the top 3 in that portfolio. Now, if you're looking for getting more concentration into these tech holdings, then this is a great ETF, kind of buy and hold for the long term. Now, the performance is very similar to VGT. In the last last 3 years, it has done much better than VGT. But the last 5 years and 10 years, it has kind of beaten VGT. Now, it's been around since 2013, so we do have data that goes around like that, but VGT has been doing much better. But let's look at the performance overall. So if we look at the 5-year average, it has done about 19.45%, and the 10-year average has been about 19.54%. So if you want to put your money into a great tech ETF, FTEC is a great tech ETF that you can buy and hold for the long term, and it can grow your money and make you super rich. I mean, I have talked about VGT, and FTEC is a carbon copy. It's just got a cheaper expense ratio, a cheaper share price, and it's a great one that you can buy and hold, and it will grow your money for the long term. So if you're looking for a great tech ETF and you're looking at Fidelity, well, try FTEC. Let's get on to our next ETF. Our next ETF is going to be a dividend style ETF. Now, it is FDVV, which is the Fidelity High Dividend ETF. Now, FDVV is a great dividend ETF. Now, it's comparable to VYM or even SCHD. Now, the reason I like this ETF because it's got a great yield with a great performance. Now, the expense ratio is going to be 0.16%, which means it costs about $16 for every $10,000 invested. Now, the yield is sitting at a 3.02%, and if you compare that to VYM is sitting at 2.86%. So you're getting a good 14, 15, 16 basis points better than VYM, and so that kind of covers that expense ratio. You're getting a better yield, and you kind of evened out on the expense ratio. Now, if you looked at the performance, you may be wondering, does it outperform VYM or even SCHD? Well, let's take a look. Now, if we look, it hasn't been around for 10 years, so we have good 5 years, and the 5-year performance has an average of about 17.37% over the long term. Now, VYM has a performance of about 13.46%. So if you were to invest $10,000 and you had a choice between FDVV or VYM, well, FDVV has a better performance, it's got a better yield, and it's got a cheap share price of about $48, $49, $50 depending on when you watch this video. So if I had a choice and I wanted to pick a great dividend ETF that's got a high yield, it's got a great share price, it's got a good performance overall, then FDVV could be that dividend ETF. Now, it's got some great companies like Nvidia, Microsoft, and Apple. It also has companies like Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola. So you have a little bit of a mix of tech and a little bit mix of blue chip stocks. So this is a great dividend ETF to buy and hold for your portfolio. Now, we just took a look at top 3 ETFs from Fidelity that can make you super rich. If you ask me, if I was looking for some great ETFs from Fidelity and not from Vanguard or Schwab, then these top 3 would make a great core, make a great 3-fund portfolio. Think about it. You've got a core in FELC, you have a growth with FTEC, and you've got dividends with FDVV. Now, some of these holdings will overlap with the Nvidias, Microsofts, and Apples, but you're going to have some more growth in tech with FTEC. You're going to have some more dividends with Procter & Gamble and FDVV. So these are some great ETFs that you can combine together and create a great 3-fund portfolio. Now, I have talked about Schwab and I've talked about Vanguard on here. Now, these are the Fidelity ones. Now, if you're looking for some Fidelity index funds, I recently talked about that, and you can check that out on my next video. So let me know in the comments, do you like some Fidelity ETFs? Would you buy any of these? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in our next video.